everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Josie. Today's video, I'll put it right up front, may offend some of you. So if you get offended easily, please go watch something else. I prayed about this before I decided to do it. It's actually my testimony. And I decided that if this video helped one person, then it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. It's my testimony of some, I say, miracles in my life. Lots of people say, oh, it's a coincidence that happened. Not these. There's a couple of the stories that I went over and over, and no, it's not a coincidence. So, you non-believers, I understand, and I'm not trying to push religion on you. Actually, I won't say I'm religious. I follow Jesus. There's a difference. Religion is man-made. Following the Bible and Jesus is different. So, this actually is a testimony of my life. I will state a few things about the Bible as I go on. And I have made some notes. And if you watched any of my other videos, I have talked about this one thing I'm going to tell you about now. I don't know if I went into detail. I think every year I do a memorial for my daughter who passed away with muscular dystrophy in 1969. So I do a little video, I do a little write-up on Facebook. So anyway, we will start. Before my daughter was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy, I felt like something was wrong with her. She started crawling, oh gosh, 6 months old, maybe 8 months, very slow. But when she started crawling, she drug one leg. She didn't crawl like the normal child. Anyway, I had taken her to pediatricians, and they all told me, oh, just feed her more. That's why I guess I don't have confidence in a lot of our doctors. I mean, she went to specialists, not just primary family doctors. So we had moved from California to Idaho. And actually, before she was ever diagnosed, I had these dreams, continually the same dream. We lived on a ranch, and I had this dream of flower pots all over the yard. And I could not figure that out. Anyway, her and my other son were supposed to have tonsillectomy. And they had a cold. And so our family doctor said he wanted to do an x-ray on both of them. So I won't go into all of that, but that's when they found out she had an enlarged heart and sent us to Portland, Oregon, and to run tests. But one of the things, my daughter, you know, when I put her to bed, we would have, you know, the normal little mommy and daughter conversations. And I don't know how we got started one night about, you know, I said to her, oh, when you grow up, you know, you'll get married and have a family. And she looked at me very, very seriously with kind of a little tear in her eye and said, no, Mommy, I will never leave you. And I kind of, you know, I hugged her and just, it's like a child, when a child is ill, a child knows. It's just, you know, something I think just the angels or God lets them know. Anyway, I won't go through all the, just with the specialists and everything. I won't go through all that. I just wanted to point out the night that she passed away, I had put her to bed, tucked her in, and then went to my bedroom. And she would get up, and we had it was a long hall in this ranch house. And she would walk down the hall and stand in the door. She wouldn't come all the way in. She would just stand in the door, and she would just talk. Just talk about a lot of things. And then this happened 3 times. The third time, I did tell her, come and get in bed with Mommy and Daddy. But while she was standing in the door, she talked about things. I remember laying in that bed and thinking, I've got to remember all of this tomorrow. I've got to remember and write it down. And the only thing I said, God let me remember, was she talked about angels. I'm sure the angels had appeared to her and told her that they were taking her. The other things that she said were, all I remember is they were not of this world. I don't think we were supposed to know about the things that she said. And one thing she kept saying, Mommy, can I still set the Christmas tree? Can I still set the Christmas tree? And she said that about 3 times. And the reason for that, my husband had went and got us a Christmas tree. But this was in Idaho, and there was snow, and the tree was still wet. We were originally going to decorate it that night. And the tree was still wet, so he put it out on the porch so it would dry and we would set it the next day. And Cheryl loved Christmas. I mean, I would take her to the church bazaars, and she would buy gifts for, the family, little gifts, maybe homemade things that people made that went to our church. She loved Christmas, and she had already bought all her little gifts and had wrapped them. But this was the thing that really set in her mind, can I still set the Christmas tree? So then she came and crawled in bed with us, and I put my arm around her, and when I woke up in the morning, I knew she was dead. You could look at the side of her neck and you could see her pulse. Normally, it was very fast, and you could see it. And I looked over at her and I couldn't see it, so I woke up my husband and we called the doctor. But the things that she said, and I was always a believer, always. I always believed in God, believed in the Lord, but I can't say that I lived the life that I should all my life until the last 5 years that I gave my life to Jesus. But I always remembered and the strength that child gave to me. She was a strong little girl. She learned to ride her bicycle, and the doctor said she never would. She was stubborn, she was determined, and I see that in myself. But she gave me strength, and anytime I come close to maybe losing a little faith in my life, I remember all the things that my daughter taught me. And it breaks my heart when I see people who, if you don't open up your heart and you don't have faith, you don't believe, the Lord's not going to show you anything. You compare science with the Lord. If you can't see it or you can't touch it, we breathe in air. We can't see air. We can't, we can't touch it. God's real. Heaven and hell are real. And also, a lot of non-believers, and you could, if you leave me a nasty message, I'll just delete it. So a lot of non-believers, like I said, they haven't opened up their heart. And if you don't accept the Lord for your Lord and Savior, He's not going to show you anything. Why should He? You pushed Him out. Open up your heart. And I will talk a little bit about, praying, and I'll go into that a little bit later. Okay, another thing this happened, a few years back, so this is not an old thing. I was living in Nevada, and my family's in California. And so I came over here and spent a month in December. And my daughter-in-law took me to all of the lower income 55 and over senior apartments. And in California, most of the waiting list is 2 to 5 years. And so I signed up in all of them. I couldn't even remember how many I signed up for. And didn't think anything would come of it. But we went to this one place, and she said, there was a waiting list, but she said, you know what, why don't you call every couple of weeks and see? You never know if somebody has left or how the waiting list goes. And so I thought, okay. Anyway, I flew back to Nevada. And by the way, people who live in Nevada, it's not Nevada. Actually, people who live in Nevada hate when other people pronounce it Nevada, because it is Nevada. A little tidbit on that. Okay, one day it was only like 4 or 5 days after I got back to Nevada. And I needed to go to Walmart to pick up a prescription, but something kept hounding me, like, call. And I kind of fought with this voice. And I thought, it's only been 5 days, Anyway, I called. And the lady said, well, I'm glad that you called. We have one apartment. It's an upstairs apartment, but it has to be rented today, and the first 6 months are free. And I thought, oh my gosh. And I told her, I said, well, I'm still in Nevada, but I'll call my daughter-in-law. And it happened to be the apartment complex I lived in was owned by the same company. So I contacted my daughter-in-law, and between her fast, wonderful work and the lady in the office where I lived doing the faxing back and forth, because this apartment had to be rented out by 5 o'clock. And it happened. I never thought it would happen. It was just like, the lady in the office was absolutely, most of them would not have done what she did. I mean, she spent several hours faxing stuff back and forth. And also all the time my daughter-in-law put in. Okay, by 5 o'clock, 5:30, I heard for sure I had that apartment. So within 2 weeks, I was moved to Southern California. And that's not a coincidence. That was God's plan. Things don't happen like that. Okay, so I was in a small town, well, not really, California towns are not small, but anyway, smaller than where I'm at now. But I was a little over an hour away from my family, and I wouldn't drive one particular freeway. So my daughter-in-law had to come and get me, and I would stay a couple of weeks, and then she would take me home. And it was a lovely apartment. Actually, it was a 2-bedroom apartment. It was great price and a lot cheaper than what I pay now. But it was just difficult. And so one day when I was visiting, and by the way, I had never, for some reason, never had changed my Nevada phone number on my cell phone. And I was at my son's house, and my phone rang, and evidently I was doing something and I didn't answer it, but I got a message on it. And this lady was saying, Charlie, are you still interested in an apartment? And think about this. This is a Nevada number. I'm in Southern California. So I told my son about it, and he said, well, Mom, why don't you call it? So I did. And I called the number, and this lady answered, and I said, well, I got this message, but I'm not Charlie. So apparently Charlie lived in Nevada and had put his name on the waiting list, but apparently he had changed his number or passed away or something, and I had his phone number. So, make a long story short, my daughter-in-law brought me down there, and because my car was still over an hour away. Anyway, I'll kind of shorten that story. When I got down there and filled out the papers, the lady in the office said, they ran a credit check, and she said there was one person that put the deposit down just before you got here. But if his credit check doesn't pass, then it's yours. And so I remember praying, God, if you want me to have this, it's all in your hands. Nothing I can do but pray if I'm supposed to have this apartment. I got a phone call an hour to 2 hours later that the credit check on this other person failed, and it was my apartment. And think about this, and I went through the whole scenario. Why didn't I change my cell phone numbers when I moved over here? Because I'm one of those people that I have to do whatever I have to do right now. I don't procrastinate. And this man also lived in Nevada and had my number, and then apparently, like I said, something happened and I got that phone number. So, and I have a lot of other things in my life. I'll just mention, like I said, those 3. I have seen miracles, and being a retired nurse, I have seen miracles. I also, as a nurse, witnessed a patient who was actually paralyzed she had to be fed. And I did not take care of her when she actually passed away, but I had taken care of her. And the nurse who was on duty when she passed away was kind of maybe a little in shock, because this lady couldn't move at all. And just before she died, she sat up and put her hand out. You explain that to me. You people that are non-believers, I'm not condemning you. I'm just wanting you to open your heart and give your life to the Lord before it's too late. And I'm going to There was a passage I wanted to read you here. Oh, I wanted to talk about prayers. You know, a lot of people will pray for something and they'll pray for a miracle, but the only time they do pray is when things get really, really bad. And just because they pray, they think they're going to get it. Well, you know, the Lord knows better. I believe that He does miracles, and He does them every day. Think about the things in your life that you had near misses. That car almost hit you. You almost died. I mean, think about those. You know what? God was in control. And I like what this says here. As long as your prayers are not for selfish motives, driven by pride, hidden pride in your heart, you know, God's not going to answer prayers that are for selfish reasons. If you knowingly condone sin, whether it happens to you or someone else, and you don't correct them, you should forget about God answering your prayers when you are doing evil things or sinful things, and you only want Him to give you this miracle. And let's see, there's all the miracles in the Bible. Well, the first miracle, born to a virgin. Jesus' first miracle was being born to the Virgin Mary. Mary was with child by God's Spirit before she was married to Joseph. This made Jesus the Son of God. There are so many miracles in the Bible. The resurrection of Jesus. I mean, and there was witnesses to that. Read the Bible. Let's see, on Matthew 7:20, and this is from the NIV. I like the King James Version better, but it's harder to understand and harder to read. He replied, because you have so little faith, truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. The main thing is faith. And I really prayed about this because I had no plans until this morning to do this. It was heavy on my mind. And I guess I feel the Lord wanted me to do it. I am not a good speaker. Anyone who knows me knows that. But what I say comes from my heart. I've read so many negative things on Facebook lately, and I won't mention names, but how can you say you're a Christian and pray for evil to someone? How can you want harm, I don't care, to your worst enemy? You can't be, what should I say? There's genuine Christians who live the life, and by the way, we're all sinners, so I don't profess to be perfect, far from it. But there are people who say they're Christians and yet believe in abortion, believing, you know, that just because they don't like someone, they want to see them dead or something horrible happen. I pray for their souls. I really do. With all my heart, I pray for their souls because there is a heaven and hell. And like I said, I didn't come on here today to do this, to try to make you believe like I do. It's just a testimony of, and I'm sharing things in my life because there has to be people out there that they believe, but there's that little doubt. You know, think about this world. Think about the 4 seasons. It didn't just happen. Think about the human body and how our body works, how every organ in our body works. That didn't just happen. We didn't just appear here. Everything works like it's supposed to, unless, we get a disease or we get old and we're not healthy. But God made us in perfect image. And it's because we're all sinners. And we also, lots of times, make bad choices. And we bring a lot of grief on ourselves. I know, in my life, some of my hardships, some, no. I can say some were brought on by other people, but then I made the choice to be with those people. So, no, it's take responsibility and believe. The day that you truly believe in the Lord, your life might not get easy. I mean, sometimes I think it gets more difficult. I've been attacked, I don't know how many times. But you will not have the fear, like the fear that you see that's going around now. You will know that God is in control. And what happens, happens. There's nothing we can do about certain things. We are going to die. There's nothing. You can cry, scream, pray. It's going to happen. But there's eternal life. There really is. Jesus went to heaven to prepare a home for us. And like I said, I won't get into the Bible. That is a whole nother video. But this basically is just a testimony of part of my life. I've seen miracles in my personal life, and I've also seen them in the medical. So keep the faith. Like I said, if you don't like my video, just don't watch it. This is on my second channel, Josie Cares. But I feel like if I get one person to really believe, your life will change. Your life will change. And one other thing, don't follow the crowd. If you know something is wrong, don't follow just because you're afraid you're going to lose friends. You know what? Friends are a dime a dozen sometimes. If you have one friend in life that's truly your friend, no matter what you believe, and they stick by you, then you're rich. But don't follow just because you're afraid you're going to lose friends. And don't, even your good friend, if they're doing something you don't like, you don't have to do it. Doesn't mean you desert them, but you don't have to do it just because they're your friend. So I'm going to close this video. Like I said, if you're a non-believer and you hate what I said and you think I'm full of you know what, fine. I absolutely believe in everything I've said. My testimony has happened in my life, and like I said, I can go on for hours, but I will cut this short. If it helps one person, that's all I care about it. Anyway, God bless you. I do hope you'll pick up the Bible and read it. And it's hard to understand, but find a what should I say, maybe a preacher that actually preaches from the Bible. There are a lot of churches now that they don't speak about hell. They don't want to lose members, and they only want to tell you, God is God of love, and, do what makes you happy. No. Find a real preacher who preaches heaven and hell and really preaches from the Holy Bible. This is the Bible. It's large print that my deceased husband had read every single page 3 times. And I'll tell you, when we got married, I wasn't planning on telling you this, but when we got married, he had been to a lot of different churches, and he thought most of them were all hypocrites. And we found a good church, and he became an elder. No, excuse me, he became a deacon. I was an elder after he died. He became a deacon and loved the church. And he lived the life. In fact, one day I said something about damn, and he said, "You're not supposed to say that word." So he lived the life, and he read that Bible, like I said, every day, and he read every single page. And he was basically a non-believer when we got married. So that's an example. Anyway, God bless you. Stay safe, and hope at least someone got something out of this video. Bye, everyone.